Welcome to the Path Podcast, where we will travel the lives of some bold women, from dreams to detours to destiny. She did not choose this path. This path chose her. This is the Path Podcast. Welcome back, Path listeners, to the Path Podcast with your sister, your motivator, your confidence builder, the one who believes that purpose is bigger than obstacles. Path listeners, when putting my notes together for this show, my guest did a post that said, the scariest place to be is the same place as last year. This is your permission to change. Path listeners, today my guest and I are talking about our finances. More specifically, our habits, struggles, and mindset with our money. All that has to do with what she calls our money story. Let me tell you a little bit about my guest so we can dive into this exciting and in-our-face topic that everyone needs to hear. My guest today is Charlene Tilbanie. She's also known as Charlene Money Coach. Charlene is a chartered accountant by profession with almost 20 years experience and has worked in both public and private accounting. For the last 12 years, Charlene has been working in the financial services sector, daily managing the accounts of companies and organizations with hundreds of thousands of assets. In Charlene's personal life, she has been, get this everyone, consumer debt-free for the last 10 years and strongly believes that everyone should be financially literate. She also believes that everyone has the ability to experience some measure of financial freedom. We will hear how her passion for personal finance was birthed and her financial journey. Right now, everyone, let me welcome in my guest, Charlene Tilbanie, also known as Charlene Money Coach, into the Path Podcast. Charlene, how are you today?
I'm fine, thanks, Arlene. How are you doing?
I am wonderful. When I found her on Instagram, I saw what I was looking for. I was looking for someone who talked about finances, but sometimes I feel that connection, and I loved her, the way she was telling her story. But right now, I'm just like, I have to have her on the show. I've been looking for someone to do finance and talk money with us. So everyone, let me tell you what we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about how she became, again, consumer debt-free for 10 years and strongly believes that we all have that, should have that financial literacy in our repertoire to start doing more with. Getting to the root cause of our money struggle and why that is important and what it has to do with our money story. Again, what is the money story? And how Charlene is now helping female Christian professionals and solopreneurs use their faith and money to tap into financial freedom and how you can work with her. So Charlene, let me tell you the first thing I like to start on the Path Podcast. Tell me first about the younger Charlene, the one who thought she had life all figured out. What were your hopes and dreams, and are you doing it today?
That's a very interesting question. So I grew up in Jamaica, and my parents still are strong advocates for education. Mm-hmm. They grew up in extreme poverty. And for them, the way they got out of poverty was through education. Mm-hmm. So for my sister and I, it's just the two of us, my parents prioritized education. Like, not going to school was simply not an option. It could be raining cats and dogs. It could be floods going on. You are going to school. Yes. So we knew that going up. And when I sat in my very first accounting class in grade 10, that's what we called it in Jamaica, grade 10 or fourth form. I was about 14 at the time. The very first accounting class that I sat in, I fell in love. And that's when I knew that that's what I wanted to do in life. I'm a very logical thinker, and accounting, it just clicked and it made sense. So yes, I'm still an accountant 20 plus years later after graduating college. So in that regard, I am following my hopes and dreams. But growing up, I always knew as well that I wanted to have impact, that I wanted to leave a legacy behind, and that I always wanted to find my purpose. And work, unfortunately, did not fill that purpose void. Like I always knew I was created for something bigger, something that would have meaning and that would touch the lives of people. And as far as I was concerned, I just went to work every day. And I felt that I was just making rich people even richer. So I was left with that void, that gap in my life. And luckily, I found it. And we'll get into that a little later. But luckily, I did find my purpose. And therefore, I can confidently say that, yes, I am following my hopes and my dreams that the younger Charlene dreamed about.
Wow. Let me tell you, first of all, let me go into one or two things. First, I can't believe you love accounting, but in college, Charlene, that was not, I can remember the professor in college and all of it. And I was just happy when I got out of accounting 1 and 2 here in the States. And I take my hat off to you. I love money. I just don't love the accounting side of it and doing that. So that's, I love how we all are just different beings. And I love what you said about, I'm going to get into the parents, but I love what you said about, you decided that you wanted something more fulfilling and not just making even rich people richer, of course, and finding in that passion that you definitely found, obviously. And then everyone, again, you have to, follow her and connect with her, that you can tell is something that you're passionate about. So in your earlier years and your parents being like the parents that we know, and I have a lot of friends that we know these parents who, I was that way with my daughter, going to school, rain, snow, sleet, we are going. And she would even make jokes about how some of her friends didn't come to school because they had a headache. And I'm like, what is that? And so your parents were they were big on education, like you said. What I believe we know some of the answers, but what do you think was their driving factor for pushing education so much to you and your sister?
Pretty much it was the way to be a successful adult. That's what they saw, So you went to school, you got a great job, and then you would essentially keep that job, make some money, and live a comfortable life. So for them, it was just one track mind. Like my parents aren't big on entrepreneurship. It's weird for them, even though my dad and my mom, they both had some experience with entrepreneurship in their adulthood. But for my sister and I, they never encouraged that, because for them, it was go to school, get a great college degree, find a good paying job, and essentially just work hard, save your money, and be a successful adult and contribute to society. That was it for them.
Yes. And that's what a lot of my parents, I got that same thing, and that's what they were taught, and especially driving the education, because they know you can, again, get the good job, like you said, high paying job, and live a successful life. What do you feel like the lessons for money to have been something, to be something you're working in today in your passion? What did they teach you then about money as you were growing up? What was like that? And I don't want to say this is part of your money story, but tell me just what were your earlier years learning about money from your parents?
It is part of the money story, because your money story, it actually starts taking shape from your 3 or 4 years old. So it is part of it. So my parents, they taught us the very, very basics about money. I'm not going to lie. They taught us that you need to work hard, you need to save for a rainy day, and you essentially needed to buy your own property. That was it for them. And you need to give. They were big givers and still are big tithers and givers. So that was it for them. Give away some, save some, buy a piece of property, because that's the key to building wealth. Yes. And essentially keep your good paying job. But beyond that, they did not teach us, and it's because they did not know either. Yes. They didn't teach us about things like investing, They didn't teach us things about budgeting, about avoiding high interest rate debt. And also because of their background, they handled money in a way where they did not spend on luxury and on experiences. For them, it was all about keeping the lights on, making sure that you always had a roof over your head, ensuring that you always went to school, as I said, ensuring that you didn't go to bed hungry and that you didn't walk naked, essentially. So it was just the basics. There were no fancy vacations. There were no name brand clothing. We hardly ate out. And also, they essentially just focused on what we needed to survive, what we needed to exist. And it's because they grew up in poverty and they essentially wanted to ensure that their money never ran out and that we didn't have to worry about money running out. So they didn't think about things like birthday parties, like what's that? Christmas gifts? No, we celebrate Christmas. Yes, we would always have extra food on the table at Christmas, but Christmas gifts, no. So that trickled down into my adulthood, where when I started working, I decided to give myself all the things that I could not get when I was a child. I could not afford it, which caused me to get into deep trouble. Yeah. But it's because of how I was brought up, my childhood experiences with money that trickled down into my adulthood and created the issues that I had.
So let me go back and say, everyone, we know her parents, of course, as you know too, did a wonderful job because they did the necessities of what you needed.
Exactly.
Of course, to a child, of course, not getting a Christmas gift is like, it's the worst thing in the world, especially if you had other friends who may have gotten things. It's a hard thing, but as parents, they did what they were supposed to do.
Yes.
And like you said, they were taught. And again, I know everyone, we're going to get into how she is going to break this money story down that I love so much, that made so much sense to me in a few minutes. But let's go into, like you said, because I wanted to shout out that your parents, we know they did the right things. Sent you to school, fed you, clothed you, give you a roof over your head. And again, that's what they did. And that was wonderful. Because I did hear what you say, just like you said, that you had the basic necessities, but you thought you all were poor, and then you said you wanted to treat yourself. So of course, go back into that point when you realized, when you left home, you went to college, did everything you were supposed to, parents proud, and started living on your own. Tell me about that, your life with your money.
So I essentially just started spending. So all of what I could not get growing up, I decided to just buy it for myself. So I realized that I could not walk into a store without buying something. I didn't need it, right? I just saw it. I liked it. I could afford it. So I bought it. And I use afford very loosely because when the cash ran out of my account, once I got paid, I would just swipe, right? Because of course the credit card is there. There is some credit limit there, some room on my credit card. So I would just swipe. And it just continued. I'd get paid, I'd pay off, quote unquote, the credit card, meaning just pay a little more than the minimum payment, just to create a little more space on the card. And then the cycle would just continue. And it was not until one day in 2010, when it caught up with me, that I realized that I had to make a change. Mind you, my parents saw this lifestyle, they saw it going on.
Yes.
And I think they wanted to say something, but they didn't know how to.
Yeah.
Because I had to live my own life, right? I am now an adult. They did the best they could. And to be fair, they didn't even know the lengths to which I had gone. They didn't know the total amount of debt I had accumulated. They didn't know how bad it had gotten. They just realized that I was always buying something. I'd always be coming home with packages and with stuff that I did not need. That was the worst part about it. Yeah. But stuff that I didn't need and stuff that I would end up even throwing away a few weeks or a few months later. That's the worst part about it. I could not look back and say, this is what I used all of this money to buy. So that was essentially my story.
Yes. And one time I heard you said on one of your, as you were educating everyone, you said you felt it was an income issue at one point, but then so you decided, okay, I'll make more money. And you we'll do that too. We'll look for another position to say, okay, I need to make more money and start making more money. And what do?
Spend more.
We spend more and it doesn't help. So tell me about the time. What was the turning point you said that made in 2010 that made you decide something has to change?
Yeah, the breaking point was being reduced to less than $100 on payday one day in 2010. That was the breaking point. I call it my rock bottom, come to Jesus moment. So I had moved countries because as you said, I thought it was an income problem. I thought I wasn't getting paid enough.
Yes.
And so I moved and I got a better paying job. And what tends to happen, we don't realize, is that you get more money and then the expenses just expand to suck up all of that money. We call it lifestyle inflation in the finance world. That's all it is. So you get paid $100 more and then you decide to spend $120 more, not realizing that you are making the situation worse than before you got the pay increase. So I had a few loans before I moved countries, got to the new country and accumulated even more loans. And I was about to switch jobs. And unfortunately, the bank, who I had owed one of the loans to, they thought that I was about to abandon my obligation because my salary wasn't going to that particular bank anymore. So they got a letter from my old employer saying, this is Charlene's last paycheck with us. They thought that I was going to, I guess, leave the country. So they saw that I had this loan amount. They saw that the salary could cover the loan amount in full. So they just took it.
You're kidding.
I found out when I went to the ATM machine to draw some money to buy gas to put in my car. When I looked, I realized that I had just gotten paid, but yet my bank account showed that I had less than $100 in my account. I was so ashamed because here I was dressed, in full corporate gear, driving my nice car, and had been reduced to pennies. If you should put it in context of what my regular salary is, I was reduced to pennies on payday, not knowing how I was going to get to work, not knowing how I was going to buy food, not knowing how I was going to pay my rent. And that was the point when I realized that you cannot continue along this path, Charlene. You have to make a change because this is unsustainable. This anxiety that you have around money should not be. And furthermore, you're an accountant, so you should know better. So all of that culminated to me making a decision to change my financial story.
I can't imagine that day. Being an accountant, like you said, in a profession in your field, and what you saw in your account that day, knowing that it should have been something different and more. Wow, that had to be a scary time. And you said I heard you on one of your interviews that you cried, and it was like you said, it was a rock bottom. Everyone, I just want everyone to still understand that just because you may hear the information and the knowledge she gives us today, that she had that low point herself. And we all can relate to that. We some of us, we can make great money and find ourselves in a place like, why is there not enough left over? But if we sit back and go through everything, we can probably see why. Because I heard also you said, because I've done this, we were taught that, what we're supposed to do, but then we don't do it. And we've been taught to track our spending, budget, save for all the different things. But then for some reason, we can't seem to master that. And the one thing I heard you said, before we can fix the problem, we have to get to the root cause of the problem first. Exactly. Tell me what you mean by that when I've heard you say that.
So just as how when you have pain, you go to the doctor and the doctor tries to diagnose exactly what the underlying issue is, it's the same thing with our money. If the doctor just prescribes you medication to treat the symptoms, then you know the pain is going to come back or the discomfort is going to come back. It's the same thing with our money. If we don't get deep and get to the root cause of why we can't budget, why we can't save, why we keep accumulating even more debt, even if you try and create a budget for a few months or you save some money, if you don't go to the root cause of what is the problem as it relates to your money, you're going to find that you don't stick to the budget that you created, or you save the money only to be tempted or actually go into the savings account to withdraw the funds and to use it to do something that it's not even a necessity, or it's not even something that you wanted to spend it on. So I always say we need to look at our money story. We need to look at the childhood experiences that we had growing up. We need to examine what our families taught us or did not teach us about money. We need to look at the environment in which we currently live, and is it one that's fostering growth with our money, or is it hindering us? Look at the culture. Look at the culture of the culture that you were brought up in or that you currently live in, and how is that impacting what you have internalized about money? Look at what's buried deep in your subconscious about money. Some of us repel money, we don't even recognize it. We think money is evil, or we think that we should only have just enough in order to survive, and anything extra we can do without it. And we don't realize that these things actually place limits on ourselves. So how this translates is, you know that there is a better paying job out there, or a position opening up at work that would probably result in you getting more pay, increasing your income. But because of the limits that you have placed on yourself, because of your childhood experiences, your culture, the people you currently have in your environment, you talk yourself out of it. And all that does is cap your income, cap your ability to earn more, cap the ability for you to tap into that financial freedom that you have, that you're looking for. Some of us also have gone through some traumatic or life-changing experiences, which we don't realize impacts how we handle money. So things like divorce, things like abuse, things like major illness, things like the passing of a loved one, all of that can upend how you handle money, how you treat money, how you view money. And if you don't take the time to examine exactly what's causing the current patterns or issues you have with money, then even if you start making positive changes, you might find that you fall back into the bad money habits because you haven't taken the time to diagnose exactly what's the root cause issue and then fix it.
Yes. And let me tell you, when I heard you say that in one of your other interviews, that made so much sense. We just sometimes don't think about that, because the one thing I I'll share that, like after my divorce, at the time, my ex-husband, I always say he was more of the breadwinner at the time. And I was, my salary was, we were very young still. And my salary was, at a level of what to be moving on my own now felt like it was like, oh, wow, these things are going to change. And so with that change into my years, even to today, I can tell you something, like you said, is how you feel about money, your emotions. My emotions, I know I get to a place where I have to have so much in the bank, besides, like, I know we'll talk about it. Well, like you investing, I know about that. I do that. And all the other things that come with finances. But if my money dwindles down to a certain amount in my what I consider my emergency fund, I get nervous. And so when I heard that, I'm like, oh boy, that makes sense. Because, people, of course, who go through divorce and different things like that, and the different other things you mentioned, it is a big deal, because now you're going down to one salary, and now your lifestyle can change, or your ability to do some of the things that you used to do. So, I learned how to manage all of that for me, but still my thing has always been, okay, I have to have this much sitting here because it's me doing it by myself now. And just in case a rainy day was to come, I need that rainy day to be like a sunshine again, because I got the money in my account, and I get anxiety if I don't. So I understand that part. And you said about the money story, and I hope everyone is hearing that. You said again, it starts around 3 or 4. And I love, and I'll let you tell us about it. When you said our money mindset, you spoke about the first thing, if you wake up from a deep sleep. Can you talk about that? So people can really hear how you explain this money story. I know she's been touching on it, everyone, but I just want you to tell us again, what is the money story, so they can clearly hear it and explain about how we should think about it, our mindset when it comes to money.
So your money story, it's comprised of all the personal experiences that you've had in life.
Yes.
And that shapes how you feel and how you act as it relates to money. So it's both.
Yes.
It's not only about the actions, but it's also the emotions around money. I used to think that money was black and white, but I've come to realize that it's more emotionally driven. So your money story is in turn what shapes your money mindset. And your money mindset is the overriding attitude that you have about money. So some of us, we struggle with the scarcity mindset. And for some, it's the abundance mindset. I think that most women of color, unfortunately, struggle with the scarcity mindset. So for us, the glass is always half empty. We always think negative as it relates to money. We hoard money. We worry over money. We limit ourselves as it relates to money. Versus someone who has the abundant mindset. They focus more on what's coming in rather than what's going out. You'll find that person looks at the glass as being half full. They are risk takers. They always look for opportunities and seem, as a result, to attract opportunities. And they're the ones who believe that there is room enough for everyone. Both of you could be in the same space, doing the same thing. And the person with the abundant mindset would be helping you because they think that you have your money to make and I have my money to make, and we can all coexist together. Whereas someone with the scarcity mindset, they'll be worried that, oh no, you're a competition. So I need to do everything that I can to protect myself and to shield myself from losing any money. So you find that some of us are, even though we're moving from scarcity to abundance, we might still skew more to the scarcity mindset and vice versa. You might have some who skew more to the abundance mindset.
Wow. That is a lot. and that makes so much sense to me, especially the scarcity, the money going out. That's I always tell people I am a low risk taker. I take risks. Yeah, I'm more of that low risk taker. I'll do some things, but yes, again, that other side of me comes out to say, again, I need to make sure I'm not pulling from that emergency fund, even though I know that's a smart thing still to do. And I'm sure you would, as a money professional, would tell me that still it's good to have an emergency fund. But still, I know the emotional side you're talking about. That's the part I can understand clearly. And you touched on it already, but how are the experiences, the childhood experiences, all of these things, like you said, again, you said, I know earlier, the culture, life experiences, they all play a part in our money story. So, and okay, so tell me again, like you, when you say how, if we wake up out of a deep sleep, tell people that part, because I don't want to botch up how you said it to make us think about it.
Because it's something that I am grappling with too every day. I'm not going to lie. So for me, it's if someone should wake you up out of a deep sleep and, present something to you as it relates to money, the first thought that comes to your mind, because your brain hasn't quite woken up yet. The first thought that comes to your mind, it can show you whether or not you have the scarcity mindset or the abundance mindset. And I can be vulnerable right here with you. Like my husband, because of how he was brought up, he is more along the abundance mindset path,
Mm-hmm.
whereas I am the scarcity mindset person. So you can see how that can cause conflict. Like, I know that if an opportunity should come up,
Yes.
and you should wake both of us up out of our deep sleep, I would respond to say, no, let's be cautious and let's work out plan A to Z. I need 26 different scenarios before I take the leap. He would be like, let's just
Let's
go
go
for it. It will work out. The money will come from somewhere. You need to take risks in order to make money.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that he more has the abundance mindset, whereas for me, I still struggle with the scarcity mindset. So that's how I try to guide persons to see whether or not or to say which side of the coin they are on, or which end of the spectrum they're leaning towards.
Oh, wow. I might need to sit down with you one day on another note, because I have someone, very close to me in my life today, and same scenario, exactly to what you're saying with you and your husband. They're a risk taker. They're just that abundance mindset. Let me say it that way. And I am that one. I need to hear, I'm like some, let me stew on it. I'm an analyst as a profession, and I'm like, let me analyze it. And they are too, but it's just still, it's going to take me a little longer. I need to look at all the what ifs. Let's make sure, and I think it can balance. It can be a balance and help each other if both people listen to each other, of course. But I know that so well. So the ways, like you said, according to, if we follow more on that the side of being cautious versus the abundance and risk taker, what ways can it show up in our lives?
So it shows up where you essentially limit yourself.
Yeah.
You put caps on what you can accomplish, on what you can achieve.
Mm-hmm.
You don't take any chances. You might also find it where you pile up a lot of cash in the bank account because you're afraid to invest, because if you invest, you might lose it.
Mm-hmm.
You're afraid to invest in your business. So you know that in order to scale, or in order to see growth in your business, you need to probably invest in a coach,
mm-hmm.
or invest in some seminars or some courses. And you're there looking at the money, thinking that I worked so hard to get to this point, I cannot afford to spend any out of it in order to grow.
Mm-hmm.
So it shows up in so many different ways. It also shows up in how we talk to our children about money.
Mm-hmm.
If you find yourself always telling them that money doesn't grow on trees, or we can't afford that, or we don't have the money to do this, you might be leaning towards a scarcity mindset. It's a very fine line, because of course we know that our children can push us, right?
Yes.
And even as adults, we know that some adults they're very much a risk taker,
mm-hmm.
and they throw all the caution to the wind. So there is a fine line that has to be tread. But I think we just need to do some inner work, some self-examination, to see if it's truly us being cautious, or truly us watching our money, or we're just operating from a place of scarcity and a place of fear. Because a lot of it can be fear-based too.
Exactly. And let me ask you this, Charlene, now, and you can say this yes or no. Do you mind me asking, you and your husband have children?
We don't.
Okay. No, I was just going to ask you too, then how did you balance that, especially the way you were raised and now that these are your babies, and with your, the way to this level today of where you are. I just wanted to know how you would have advised them with struggling with how you were raised to the lady you are today, to understand it better. So tell me then, as you recommend to people today, like me and everyone else out there, what do you recommend? How do we start today to get on this road to financial freedom? Before I say that, talk about how you did it to that road to financial freedom. It had to be you encompass all of what you've already said, but what were some of the first things you did for you to become debt free, and consumer debt free today? What were some of the steps you took?
All right. So first I had to deal with the pressing issue, which was the debt, right?
Yes.
Actually being able to survive.
Yes.
Actually being able to not go to bed with anxiety and money stress. So to get out of debt, I like to look at things very simplistically.
Mm-hmm.
Is that a word?
Yes.
I tend to take a very simplistic approach to things.
Yes.
So I looked at my money and I said, okay, I'm getting paid every single month.
Mm-hmm.
I need to know where the money is going. That's all I did. I said, I need to know what's happening with my salary every month when I get paid.
Mm-hmm.
So I went to the grocery store and I bought a little cheap notebook.
Mm-hmm.
And for the first 2 weeks, all I did was write down everything that I spent money on.
Mm-hmm.
Every dollar that went anal. Some people might think that's too much, but for me, desperate times called for desperate measures.
Yes.
So I tracked every single penny.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm still doing that to this day. I still walk with a little notebook and I still write down my expenses because it shows exactly where the money is going.
Mm-hmm.
So by doing that, I realized that I was spending money on things that I did not need. And most importantly, I did not value. I did not care about these things that I was spending money on.
Mm-hmm.
And I realized that I had extra money that I was spending on all of these things. And if I would just use that extra money towards paying off my debt, I could get out of debt.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I did. So it was one expense tracking at a time. Then I used that expense tracking to create a realistic budget. So it was one budget at a time, then one small debt payment at a time. And before you knew it, I had paid off about 22,000 US it was that I had owed. I paid it all off in 15 months and I've never looked back. I've since then lived within my means. I still carry a credit card. I'm not one of those who have a negative view about credit cards. Mm-hmm. I just paid off in full every single month because I know exactly what I put on the credit card and I know where the money is coming from to pay. So that was it.
Wow.
So after I got out of debt, it went beyond that. A whole new world opened up to me because for once, my money was now working for me instead of working for the bank. We don't realize that when we accumulate all of this debt, we are actually letting our hard-earned money work for the bank because we're paying interest rates of 7, 8, 15, 20, 25%. And all of that money is going towards the bank instead of working for ourselves. So after getting out of debt, I now realized that, okay, now I can save some money. And then when I got to the point where my emergency fund was fully funded, I was like, okay, now I can invest.
Yes.
Now I can buy that house. Now I can go on vacations. Now I can create memories. I also had to change my environment. So I started seeking out people and started observing them too. Those persons who were better off than I was or who had gotten to the point that I was trying to reach. I started observing them and looking at how they acted, the books they read, the habits they had, the habits they practiced, the people they hung around. And I tried to start emulating that. And I can now safely say that I'm on the road to financial freedom because of taking the brave move of first paying off that debt and then embracing all of what the world has to offer as it relates to money.
Wow. Let me tell you that I pulled 3 questions or 2 or 3 out of there from what you said. I want to go through what you just said. I want to tell some statistics also. This is, this one only pulled, it was Lending Tree. So they only pulled the American stats that 36% of Americans took on holiday debt in 2021, up from 31%, it is said, in 2020. And parents with younger children are the ones who most likely took on that debt. And that's why, and everyone is critical because this podcast should be out right before the holidays. So I thought it was important to add this in here. And then it said nearly 40% of Americans use buy now, pay later financing for holiday gifts. And most of us don't pay the debt back as Charlene said earlier, now how she keeps a credit card for, the right reasons, but she pays it off. We can say clearly, we don't do that. They said 82% of those with holiday debt won't pay it off within a month, but nearly 45% will try to consolidate their debt or open a balance transfer credit card. That could be a helpful solution for 35% of borrowers paying above average APRs, but we know that's not the solution, because then we still take time. Then that one goes up, and still it's that cycle. And a lot of us, when you said that you started writing down everything, I don't know why we make that the hardest thing, but like you said, desperate times call for desperate measures. Some of the clients you deal with today that may not, let's speak about it. I always be transparent myself. For that one who always may say, oh gosh, I have to write it all down. Basically, that's what you're saying we should start doing, right?
Yep. It works. It works. But you see, it goes beyond that. So you might think that it's a lot to write it down, but I tend to, and I use this with my clients too.
Yes.
What exactly are you trying to achieve, and why are you trying to achieve that? Mm-hmm. If you focus on the why, if you focus on the goal, then doing the little steps won't even matter. They will pale in comparison to you achieving that goal. So for some, it might be just getting rid of that anxiety and that stress as it relates to money. Mm-hmm. For some, it's being able to buy their own home. For some, it's being able to create memories with their children, going on that vacation that they always want to treat their family to. Whatever that goal is, focus on it, and then just look at the little steps that you're taking, like tracking the expenses as the way to get to that goal.
Everyone, the main thing I love when we all have a why, to your point, and I love a coach or anybody, everyone, that's why I think it's important when you invest in yourself and you invest in working with people who are experiencing what they are experiencing. Because again, just hear the simple thing. What you understand, each client comes in with different reasons of why they want to do what they do. And everyone, we all know when we have a why, there's nothing that will stop us. Like you said, that simple thing makes so much sense, because we don't put it into everything we do. We all should have a why. That's why I wish every school would teach finances to.
I wish so.
Yes. It's like Charlene Money Coach should be in every school, teaching everyone out there. The one way we have to learn this, sometimes we can't do it alone. It is finding someone like Charlene Money Coach to help us along on this journey and this path. Someone who's been there, who understands us spending the money that we shouldn't be spending, but also understands now the other side of it. She went through and did the work, and who is telling us how she did it. And that's the person we should listen to. And especially I love when you still say you ask us what we want to achieve. It's understanding your client. And I love that you did that. So tell me about your program. What are you offering? What is Charlene Money Coach, and what do you offer for your clients? What can they come to you expecting if they choose to come work with you?
Sure. So right now, my primary offer is a 3-month coaching program, and it's me working with you on a one-on-one basis, where all of what I talked about, we dig deep into it and come up with a personal strategy for your finances. So we tackle your money mindset, because in order to know where you are going, I first need to know what you think about money. So we tackle the money mindset. Without you knowing, I formulate your money story just by you talking and talking. I can pick up what your money story is. Yeah. We work on a budget together. And by the end of my program, you'll be confident enough to do your own budget, a realistic budget, I might add. If you have debt, we come up with a debt payoff strategy. I help you to start working on your emergency fund, and whatever else that might come up, I deal with it. That's the beauty about one-on-one coaching. It's highly customizable. Like I've worked with clients who have children, so I teach them how to talk to their children about money. I also help them to start thinking about those end of life things that nobody likes to talk about, but is a reality.
Yes.
But if you have children, you especially have to ensure that you have things like a will in place and that your children will be taken care of if you should die early. So all of that is done over a period of 3 months. And I have seen a lot of transformation in the lives of my clients just by having someone in their corner and someone who they can be accountable to. That's the beauty about coaching, you know. You have someone who you can be vulnerable with, because I operate a safe space, judgment-free zone. So you have someone who you can be vulnerable with, but also someone who is experienced who can help you to avoid the many pitfalls that might pop up along the financial journey.
Exactly.
Not only that, but I also have a community via email list, and I email my community once a week. So I have that which I offer to everyone. That's totally free. All you need to do is sign up, and you will have me pretty much in your inbox once a week, cheering you on, giving you tips, giving you strategies, educating you about key financial concepts so that you can go off and execute on your own if you're not ready yet to invest in coaching.
Wonderful. So that is a good segue into tell us again how they can connect with you, the email, and how they can get on that list, that email list, and how they can follow you and work with you.
Sure. So to get the emails, the weekly emails from me, just go to www.bit.ly/moneyguide22. That's 22. And you can follow me on all social media platforms, but I'm mostly active on Instagram. And my handle is at Charlene Money Coach. You'll find me talking about money all the while on my feed and in my reels. And you might see a little behind the scenes action in my stories.
Wonderful. And to work with you in coaching, it's a link in your Instagram feed. And
it is.
Okay.
Yes, there is a link in my Instagram feed. But also, if you want to just jump straight to booking a call with me, a free 30 minutes call with me, it's www.bit.ly/workwithcmc.
Okay. Wow. And that's a good.
And that will take you.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Yes. Oh, that will take you straight to my calendar, and you can just book a session right there.
Great. And that's to do like a free 30-minute call with you.
Right. Awesome.
Yes. And everyone on her page, I follow her on Instagram. You know, she's great. Her clients are saying hi, giving her high marks. So I always say I think she would be perfect person for everybody, for all of us to work with. And you deal with, you work with everybody, but is it faith-based as well?
I work with women, all women.
Yes.
But I'm a Christian, so it will come out in my content.
Yeah.
It pretty much encapsulates everything I do, all that I am.
Yeah.
But I work with any female,
Wonderful.
No matter if you're Christian or not. You can come, I can help you.
Of course.
And you can make progress.
Of course. So it's everybody, everyone. We just need to be clear with that.
Yes.
You know, women, definitely women. But that's wonderful. I will put all of her information in the show notes. So I have one or two more questions for sake of time, because I know she's a busy woman. And I wanted to ask you, Charlene, if you could turn back the time and talk to your younger 18-year-old self about your finances, or at least the turning point when you left home and started buying all of your stuff, what would you tell her?
I would tell her that she should spend money on the things that make her happy, the things that bring her joy, the things that, bring her light and happiness and peace, and not on things to keep up with the Joneses, to keep up with appearances, and definitely not on things that society tells you makes you successful or accomplished. That's what I would tell her. And that's what I want the young ones to know now, that, society will throw a whole lot of stuff at you. And I know it's even harder now in this social media age, but if you can find out what truly makes you happy, what you truly want out of life, then feel free to spend on that. That's what I would tell my younger self.
And let me say this one other thing. I had a fun question I just wanted to ask you. I said I was going to start doing this with certain guests. So if you won $10 million, Charlene Money Coach, what would you spend it on? What would be the first thing you spend it on?
First thing, I definitely tithe because I'm a big tither. I'd give away 10%, and then I'd probably give away even more than that because I wouldn't need that much money. I want to get to the place where I give away more than I spend. So I need a high income in order to do that. But because I now know what I truly need to make me happy, I'd be comfortable giving away a big chunk of that. And then I would take a 6-month vacation all around the world. I'd go to the Middle East. I've always wanted to see Dubai.
Yes.
I'd go to places like Bora Bora, Fiji Islands, and I would just spend time with my husband, of course, because he loves to travel too.
Yeah.
Just enjoying life and seeing what else the world has to offer.
Wonderful. And what you do, you can do that anywhere if you had to do stuff. So that's the wonderful part of traveling still.
Yeah, I just need some reliable internet, but I could.
Exactly. Yeah, that's it. That's what you would definitely need. Awesome. So the last thing I want to ask you, is there anything that you want to add that I didn't ask that you think is important that you would like to share at this time?
I just encourage your listeners to know that even if you are at a bad place with money right now, it can change. We tend to think that our current circumstances, that's it, it will never get better, it will never improve. But this goes back to the mindset thing. If you can start dreaming and start seeing your circumstances being different, you can start making the change. There are loads of resources out there, whether free or paid, that can help you. A lot of them are hidden in books. Many of us don't read, and we don't realize that the secret to a lot of what we want to achieve in life is written in a book somewhere. But I would challenge you to start seeing yourself different or in a better place than you currently are, and then taking the steps, finding the people, finding the resources in order to change your situation.
I love that. And I think I saw something like this on your page, and I went and checked the number of days. But to end the show of Path for listeners, I wanted to share and add to what I don't have to add anything to what she said, but just to end the show, we have 104 days left in 2022. What are you going to do to finish this year out strong? So we can enter 2023 already changed, to her point, because she said, we can change today. We have to stop waiting for January 1st to make changes, especially our toxic relationship we have with money and debt. There's no better time to start than today. As you heard from Charlene Money Coach, we have to get to the root cause and know our money story. Consider working with her today so she can help you formulate what your money story is. It's time, Path listeners, to get our finances in order. Charlene, I want to thank you again for joining me in the Path listeners today.
Thank you so much for having me, Arlene. It was a blast.
It was. Thank you. Well, one day I have so much more I'm working on. Hopefully we can come back and do some live shows with a finance show and work together. So hopefully everyone just follow her. You will be getting it daily from her. And one day she may be back if she says yes with us in the Path and sit with us a little longer and dig into this money thing a little bit more. So thank you again.
Sure. Thank you to our lives.
Until next time, everyone. Thank you, everyone, for hanging with us. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and other platforms, so you can stay up on our bi-weekly real conversations with these bold women. You can follow The Path Podcast on Facebook at The Path Podcast and on Instagram and Twitter at The Path_podcast. And if you would like to be a guest on the show or have questions for a future show, you can email us at thepath4ward@gmail.com. That's thepathforward@gmail.com. And if you're looking for a speaker or you're in need of a life coach, please reach out to me again at thepathforward@gmail.com or at ACKORLEH@gmail.com. Thank you. Until next time.